We have a new trend in education that's making its appearance in charter schools, which I call drive-by teaching. It's where you start teaching at a charter straight out of college, you spend a few years there, and then you're out, then you're gone. According to a New York Times article recently, charters have an average lifespan for teachers of about 3 years. Now in district schools, it's more like 14 years. Charters are new, so that may have part to do with it, but that's really not the reason. The reason is this is kind of a model that charter schools use. What they do is they hire young teachers, they work them hard, they chew them up, they spit them out, and that's the way they deal with things. It's part of their game plan. And by the way, the teachers who leave charter schools usually leave teaching entirely. They're gone. Now, this is a very disturbing trend in education. It's a deprofessionalizing of teaching. The drive-by teaching model, it makes teaching sound like it's a transitional stage between college and a real job, like, you go backpacking to Europe or something like that before you settle down, or maybe if you're more noble, you go and spend a couple years in the Peace Corps before you become a real adult, but teaching isn't like that, and yet this is the feeling, that this is something you do straight out of college, then you move on to your real world. So the question is, why do charter teachers leave so quickly? And the main reason is, there are a number of reasons, but the main reason is they're completely burnt out by the way they're treated at the charter schools. They're horribly overworked. Now, the teachers are given a very strict, exhausting regimen to follow in the classroom, often, not always. They often have to stay long hours. They work long beyond the 8 hours, not simply out of the goodness of their heart, but they're required to. At a number of schools, teachers have to be on call basically until 9 p.m., answering phone calls from parents and students, answering emails from parents and students, so they're never off until basically it's bedtime. You do that kind of a thing, and what's going to happen eventually is you're just not going to be able to do it anymore. I've seen quotes and I've talked to people who said, listen, I can't have a family and teach at this charter school. I can't do both. I can't juggle both lives. So people, when they get married or when kids come along, say, I've got to choose between my family and the charter school. So naturally, they've got to leave quickly. Now, they work very hard during that time, but it's not good enough. There's one other reason too, and that's a national program which is called Teach for America, which some of you may know about. Now, Teach for America started out as a very noble idea, kind of like a Peace Corps or an AmeriCorps, where people from top colleges, top graduates, would spend 2 years teaching, often in low-income schools, and after the 2 years, they'd go on to their profession, and that's the way it was planned. Now, it was a decent idea, it was a decent model, but the person who started it, and now the way the whole thing is running, has become part of the conservative privatization movement, and they're praising this kind of drive-by teaching technique as a virtue, as if that's the best way of doing it. And by the way, the Teach for America teachers are more and more going into charter schools, so they're increasing the number of teachers who have that 2-year and out or 3-year and out mentality. Now, why is this a problem? If the students are getting the education, it's fine, but actually they're not. You cannot have a school filled with inexperienced teachers and expect to give the students the rich kind of education they deserve. Young teachers are wonderful. They bring an energy, they bring a vitality, they bring new ideas, but they have to be there with experienced teachers who can help guide them, who can give the students a different experience. You don't want a student going from new teacher to new teacher to new teacher. You need that kind of leavening, and you need more kind of institutional knowledge and experience and knowledge of the neighborhood, knowledge of the community. None of these people have that. So what they do is they take these young teachers in the first 2 years of teaching. Any teacher will tell you are rugged. And to make it easier for them, they give them certain gimmicks, certain techniques, certain things that every one of them has to do, and time schedules, say exactly what they're supposed to do when, which, by the way, can be very demanding and very grueling. There's a wonderful story in the New York Times article about a principal coming in to observe a young teacher. The principal, by the way, is 27 years old. And the principal watches the teacher lead her children in a celebratory chant, one of those things to praise himself. But the principal said, I have to interrupt here. It's 2 claps and then a sizzle. Apparently the teacher didn't do the 2 claps and just a sizzle right. Well, this is turning teachers into assembly line workers, into automatons, into robots. It's no wonder that a young, gifted, idealistic teacher who was run through this ringer of doing exactly what they had to do day after day after day, and period after period, and hour after hour, would finally say, this isn't what I was educated for. I was educated for the creativity, for the spontaneity. I'm here for the love of the children. I'm not getting that. So it's no surprise that they end up leaving. Now, I worry that this tendency is spilling over to the regular old district schools, away from the charter schools. And Ann-Eve, it's something that I've seen where teachers are being paid less because funding is going down, something that's near and dear to your heart, I know. There are more students in every classroom. Teachers are working with old, ratty textbooks, often not enough, and not enough materials. And pretty soon, they get burnt out. They just can't keep this going. And then you add to that the fact that the teacher tenure laws have been removed, and teachers know that 10 or 15 years into their teaching career, for virtually no reason, even because the school is strapped for money and needs to hire a less expensive first-year teacher, they can be gone. These are the kind of things that I'm afraid are going to make drive-by teaching more of a rule and less of an exception.
I think you're right, Dave, and it is really upsetting. I think that we have a lot of refugees from the teaching industry who have now, or the teaching profession, who have now changed careers. They've moved to different states. I know of a Refugee Association of Arizona Teachers in the state of Colorado, and their profession is being demeaned. And it's being devalued, and it's a shame to see these young teachers who are sort of put into these sweatshops, to call it, that's really what it is, and have everything squeezed out of them when they might be the really passionate people that we need to be the next generation. And I do worry about who is the next generation of devoted, quality teachers, because we are squeezing out the middle group right now, the people who say are in their 30s or 40s. They've already made an investment. They're going to, we hope, stick it out. Other people are retiring as soon as they can. The people, the veteran teachers who know what they're doing, are getting out as quickly as they can because their circumstances have declined so precipitously. And then who's going to be coming up through the ranks? We were talking about the market forces, and just when I was listening to you describe this, what is the market like? It likes young, cheap labor, and it works it to death. I mean, I remember when I was a young journalist, and I was willing to do anything and everything, for the story, and you just at some point aren't capable of doing that after you have a family, after you're a little bit older. But you want those people, you want their expertise, you don't want them leaving the profession. I think what Wendy Kopp and Teach for America has done is a huge shame, and it's really sad that so many philanthropists have bought into her myth that somehow what she's doing is improving education in the United States.
Well, I hope that there's going to be a turnaround in that trend. I hope there's going to be a turnaround in the standardized testing trend, because otherwise, the best and the brightest, the most eager and idealistic people, and I considered myself one of them back when I started teaching, will look at the profession and say, this is not the type of thing that I wanted to do. This is not what I'm going to love doing. This is not what I'm going to bring my heart and soul to. And you're going to get a different type of teacher who simply won't be doing for our children what we really want them to do.
Well, and I think what we're also seeing is we know that there's such a big drumbeat right now about STEM education. We need more science and math teachers. And what we see is that it is virtually, I don't want to say impossible, but very difficult with what people are being paid right now to recruit young people away from much more high-paying careers, maybe not less demanding, but equally demanding careers, to get them to come in and teach math and science. And just from personal experience, my brother was a longtime math teacher, and he's now left the profession to go into the medical field because of years and years and years of static pay. And it was not worth it to him anymore.
Well, more people are going to have to keep an eye on this very disturbing trend and make sure it doesn't keep going in that direction.
Absolutely.